They signed the peace. Today arose three biblical signs that can change everything. Peace and security. 1 Thess 5:3 is already making headlines almost no one saw. In 30s, I'll show you a one-page document and the signal that explodes at the end. Stay with me. The third is the bomb. He has lots of headlines and opinions. Here we go, in fact. No text of the Bible and us verifiable signs. Few people talk about this, but it's in the scriptures. 1 Thessalonians 5:3, Daniel 9, Matthew 24. Don't panic. Text, context, and fruit, the method to separate peace and security of real prophecy. Stay with me until the end, because the last sign is the most ignored and changes everything about Jerusalem. Ready? Let's start with document. Think of the document in 4 parts. Ceasefire, if any, deadlines, who mediates, guarantees, and what each side must comply with. That's it. Who does what, by when, and who holds them accountable. If it's not written down, it's not valid. Few people check this, and that's where many people fall for the headline. The Bible commands sober vigilance. 1 Thessalonians 5:3 points to the discourse of peace and security before a sudden change. Daniel 9 speaks of a covenant with prophetic weight, not just any piece of paper. Matthew 24 shows cumulative signs, not an isolated event. Text, context, and fruit. This is the filter that prevents panic and loose theory. Think of it this way. This agreement could be a condominium contract, not a house deed. A contract organizes cohabitation. A deed changes ownership and destiny. The document can reduce tension without being the final prophetic milestone. This is the point that changes everything in the reading of prophecies. Now notice what the document generally doesn't say. The sacred status of Jerusalem and the Mount, the prophetic countdown, formal guarantees with actors capable of actually holding it accountable. If this isn't mentioned, we're talking about operational cooperation, not the Daniel 9 covenant. Keep this on your checklist, and the next step is crucial. Peace and security as public rhetoric. This is where the light goes off. Sign 1. Peace and security as public discourse. What to watch for today: speeches by leaders, official statements, and headlines repeating the pair. Peace plus security to calm and legitimize decisions. The Bible warns of a climate of apparent tranquility before a rupture. When the expression becomes a catchphrase, it lights up the radar. Whenever people say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them. 1 Thess 5:3. It's not a fetish for words. It's the pattern of discourse that shapes public opinion. Instead of panic, we measure repetition, context, and who is amplifying it. It's a thermometer, not a final sentence. 30-second practical test. 1. Who spoke? Head of state, mediator, international bloc. 2. Where? Press conference, document, mirror headline. 3. What was the objective? To decompress, buy time, sell an agreement. 4. Frequency. One isolated speech doesn't make a trend. 3 coordinated appearances are already worthy of attention. The building manager says everything is under control while the building still has water leaks. The speech is calming. The actual work is another matter. If peace and security becomes a slogan, note the date and compare it with movements in Jerusalem and new external guarantors. And here comes the next point. Because when Jerusalem returns to the center, the prophetic map changes color. Signal 2, Jerusalem at the center. What to watch for today? Any mention of Jerusalem's status, access to the Mount, security changes, visitation rules, resolutions, and interim administration. When the agenda shifts its focus to the city, the biblical radar goes up a notch. A biblical window in plain language. When Jerusalem becomes a decision-making hub, the yellow lights come on. The Bible shows that the city is a prophetic thermometer, not through folklore, but through text. If practical decisions begin to touch a holy place, it is not a detail, it is a trigger for observation. Quick field test. 1. Are there new access rules hours at Monty? 2. Changes in policing or sensors checks. 3. Official note on final status or shared management. 4. Signage of construction sites, perimeters, maps of sensitive areas. 2. Yes answers in a short space of time, maximum attention. Changing the living room of the house changes everything else. It changes Jerusalem, changes circulation, forces, and discourse. Note the dates and cross-reference them with sign 1, peace and security. If the two go hand in hand, the next step comes. Who is guaranteeing what, with what collection power? This is where signal 3, unlikely alliances, can explode. Unlikely alliances. What to watch for today? Strange coalitions sitting at the same table, external guarantors with real leverage, promises of cross-security and ground presence, monitors, forces, perimeters. When historic rivals start signing guarantees, something has gone wrong. A distinction that avoids error. Operational cooperation is not the covenant of Daniel 9. Operational cooperation is about corridors, inspections, budgets, and schedules. A pact-based alliance is a milestone with scope, time, and authority to enforce. It changes the logic of the board. Don't stamp prophecy where there's only logistics. 45-second test. 1. Is there a third party with a pen and sanction in hand? 2. Is there an explicit guarantee clause with deadlines? 3. Is there an independent verification mechanism? 4. Does the actor guarantee anything in Jerusalem Mount? If 3 answers are yes, record the date and observe the accumulation with the other signals. Access road versus main highway. The road prepares, the highway changes the flow of an entire region. If unlikely alliances gain a toll, the power to collect, the prophetic map changes color. Now that the 3 signs are clear, let's filter the noise with a simple method you can use on any headline. Text, context, fruit. First, text, what's actually written. A headline isn't a document. Read the key paragraph and underline verbs, deadlines, and who does what. If it's not on paper, don't count it as a signal. Context, who spoke, to whom, when, and why. Is it a head of state or a commentator? Is it an official announcement or a rumor? Does the timing match the 3 signals, speech, Jerusalem, alliances, or is it just noise? Without context, any sentence becomes bait. Fruit, a visible, concrete effect. Has access to Jerusalem changed? Has an external guarantor with real power emerged? Has peace and security become a coordinated refrain? If there's no fruit, put it in observation mode, not fulfilled prophecy. Use it like this in 30 seconds. Open the news, highlight the text, write it down, context in 3 words, mark fruit with a yes, no answer. If you answer yes to 2 items and observe to the 3rd, come back in 48-72 hours. This keeps you sober, faith-based, and grounded. Next step, turn this into a 30-day radar that anyone can follow. Mark 3 weekly windows, weeks 1, 2, and 4 on the calendar to review movements. In week 1, observe the maintenance of ceasefires, the opening of corridors, and the presence of monitors. If there is a retreat, reclassify it as unstable and note the date. The goal is to see a trend, not an isolated day. Monitor access rules, policing changes, and warnings about management or sensitive areas. A photo of a new sign, a perimeter map, or a time change, any practical evidence is valid. 2 changes in the same time zone trigger an orange alert. If you touch Monty, you'll trigger a red alert. Look for public guarantees with deadlines, verification, and enforcement authority. If a third party emerges with sanctions or monitoring troops, mark the point on your map. 3 different official notes, repeating the same promise within 10 to 14 days, indicate coordination. Count occurrences of peace and security in speeches and headlines. 1 mention is noise. 3 in different media outlets and actors become a pattern. Add the pattern to Jerusalem and guarantees, if the three go together, you have convergence, and that changes the game. In the next step, we'll bring this to real life, without sensationalism, the human factor. Real peace has a face, families trying to start over, mourning, children returning to school, people rebuilding doors and dreams. The Bible calls this the fruit of justice and practical peace. If the headline doesn't become concrete care, it's just talk. A simple biblical example, Ruth and Boaz. Peace wasn't a slogan, it was provision, protection, and dignity. Jesus calls us to love our neighbor. This is living faith. Praying, donating, supporting those who suffer, small actions that generate great peace. Without sensationalism, sober vigilance is not paranoia. It's keeping your eyes on the text, your heart on God, and your hands in service. Avoid sharing rumors, choose facts. Peace that is practiced is a visible gospel. What if all this is just an apparent peace? If the discourse grows, Jerusalem becomes central and alliances take shape. We need clear scenarios to follow without fear. Scenario A is operational, real relief, long negotiations, back and forth. Peace and security appears as logistical language, not as a prophetic milestone. Your radar looks for consistency, ceasefire maintained, corridors functioning, visits regulated. If it fails twice in the same week, downgrade to unstable and note the date. Scenario B is a major prophetic path. Jerusalem returns to the center of decision-making. Third parties gain the power to demand action, and the peace and security discourse becomes a coordinated refrain. Here, you see an accumulation, not a single event. Three movements aligned within a few days raise red flags. This is the point that changes everything. How to classify in everyday life. Sort each headline by text, context, and fruit, and place it on map A or B. If it lands on B for 2 weeks in a row, increase your vigilance and record dates and actors. If it fluctuates, breathe. The Bible speaks of waves, not straight lines. The goal is sobriety, not panic. Practical loop. Close the day with a question. A language of Jerusalem and guarantees converging. If so, keep your eyes open and your heart steadfast in God. If not, keep serving, praying, and fact-checking. In the next point, I'll show you how to live this with sober vigilance and practical hope. Be vigilant without paranoia. Matthew 24 speaks of being awake, not agitated. Read the biblical text. Check facts. Note patterns. When the feed boils, return to the method. Text, context, fruit, practical hope. Pray, work, care for your family, plan prudently, help those who suffer near you. Living faith walks with a clear mind and active hands. 10-minute routine. 5 minutes for the Bible, 5 minutes for a single marker on your radar. Finish and close the tab. Your peace comes from Jesus, not the headline. Daily question to stay focused. Are the words peace and security, Jerusalem at the center, and alliances with teeth converging? If so, pay close attention and be sober. If not, continue serving and keeping watch. In the next step, I'll give you a 30-second summary so you can explain this to anyone. What was signed today isn't automatically Daniel 9. Prophecy isn't an easy trigger, it's a sum of markers. When peace and security becomes a refrain, Jerusalem returns to the center and alliances gain teeth. The radar goes up. Until then, sobriety. This separates those who follow the Bible from those who follow the headlines. An unforgettable image, a door ajar with a beam of light. The headline is the doorknob. The prophecy is the entire house. Whoever grabs only the doorknob is left outside. Whoever enters with a Bible in hand sees the rooms, the connections, the whole. The hidden truth is simple. Biblical signs don't walk alone. They accumulate, change the temperature of the environment, and tighten our hearts, but they call us to faith, not panic. Jesus said to be vigilant, not to live in fear. If you saw one of the signs today, it's not the end, it's an invitation. Return to the text, check the context, look for fruit. If there's convergence, note the date. If not, breathe, serve, and wait. God doesn't lose control when the headline screams. Final question for you to take to heart. What part of this mystery interests you the most? Impacted, the speech, Jerusalem, or the alliances? Answer in the comments. This will help us put together a map and keep our faith grounded. What was signed today is not automatically Daniel 9. The Bible calls for vigilance, not haste. The three signs to watch for are clear: peace and security, rhetoric, Jerusalem at the center, and alliances with the power to enforce. What matters is the accumulation, not an isolated day. Use the text, context, fruit method. Read what's written, understand who said it, and see if it has a real effect. If it doesn't produce any fruit, keep an eye on it. Live with sober hope, firm faith, a clear mind, active hands. Jesus called us to watch, without panic, with courage. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you love discovering the hidden truth in the Bible. This keeps you on the radar when new signals appear. Share this video with someone who needs sobriety and hope. A well-informed person avoids panic and helps others. I'll read the comments. Tell me which sign you've noticed and the date. Let's put together this map.